welcome back everybody to the Week 4 Division 2 Season 4 recap of the Double Dip League. My name is Aurora, coach of the Hoensbroek Hunters, and joining me today is...
IDM4, coach of the Brussels Espions.
And immediately throwing out the same disclaimer that we have a bunch of times in a row now. Yes, my own match is in this. I'll let IDM do most of the talking as to not come across as biased. None of this is rigged, I swear.
No, it's not. Why would we rig this?
Anyway, week 4, it's a decently important one. We have two eight-person divisions, meaning that week 4 allows people to get their 4th win or their 4th loss, meaning that they're pretty much either guaranteed to make playoffs or to be locked out of it. So a lot of prep went into these matches because nobody wants to, people want to secure their spots and not get knocked out like mathematically week 4.
And we actually had very big upsets on this week, which was really exciting because some of those matches had really unexpected results.
And also, given all the results of this week, we still the league is still very much in turmoil, and it can just go anywhere. But getting into our first match here, we've got Skittles the Butt, coach of the Nevada Ninetales, versus Jason, coach of the Hartford Honchkrows.
And when we watch the preview, we can immediately see that, Jason doesn't have any switch into Regidraco with Draco Energy. If that Regidraco was running Draco Energy, spoiler alert, it's not. And just as a side note, we could actually see that Skittles' team has 4 ungendered Pokemon and one only female Pokemon and one only male Pokemon. Just wanted to throw that in for actually no reason, just for the record.
Very, very, very gender diverse. Yeah, and also addressing the whale in the room. Whalord is also brought by Jason, which is, that's a Pokemon. That
and it was actually the good in this match. Nobody actually expected that.
Yeah, it actually does end up putting in some work, but as we get into the match here, it's speaking of Pokemon putting in the work, Celesteela.
Yeah, just immediately resisting a wicked blow from the Urshifu, and immediately after that, Urshifu is dead. Earthslash just kills.
Yeah, and that's immediately Jason's highest offensive pressure is just taken care of. We see here that, the Whalords, even with Water Spout at max HP, it's just not even denting this Cresselia. It can heal
it would have been really good against the Cresselia to have the Urshifu, because just Cresselia doesn't die if it's really well invested. Yeah,
and speaking of whack stats, Cresselia with Charge Beam. Get that electric coverage, get that special attack burst.
I mean, I guess it's offensive, Cresselia, and I guess why not? Why not run that? And actually coming in right now is the Regidrago, which, as we said earlier, doesn't have Draco Energy, which is unfortunate because if you actually watch the whole... here Jason doesn't have any Dragon Resist, but his whole team doesn't have any Dragon Resist. So Regidrago was basically a free, if you actually scarf it with your Dragon Energy, it was basically free to just spam it. So I'm not exactly sure why Skittles decided not to go for it.
Yeah, especially given that 150 base power move with its ability combined with stab is literally more powerful than any super effective move Skittles can throw out.
Exactly. It's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, and speaking of other unfortunate things, Jason, who has been running just hard Blizzard on a lot of his Pokemon and actually been rewarded for it a lot, ends up finally getting punished as Blizzard misses the Braviary.
Which is a bit silly because it actually ends up that Water Spout would have dealt more damage. Actually wouldn't have killed the Braviary because the Whalord wasn't specced, it was scarfed. But if he actually hit the Water Spout, the Braviary would have just killed itself with the Brave Bird and the Life Orb. And I guess it doesn't really matter in the end since the result would have been the same. Suicune just kills the Salazar anyways, but just those little misplays on any other match could actually have played a really much bigger role if well, in this case it doesn't, but we actually remember the freaking rock slide miss that basically cost the entire match of who was it again?
That was Spookman against Jason
Yeah,
in week 1.
against Jason. Yeah, it's just in this very case. I'm pretty sure Jason would have remembered that, which is why it's funny that he would actually still play Blizzard even if it's not necessary.
Yeah, but yeah, we end up 2-0. Like after Urshifu dies, it would have been a really uphill battle for Jason to still kill both Cresselia and Suicune, just because they cover each other so incredibly well and they're just ridiculously tough.
Yeah, and we actually see that the Cresselia was not even invested in defense because the Beast Boost gave it a special attack boost, and that just means that even without a big investment in bulk, Cresselia still survives the wicked blows. So it was a mistake to actually stay in the first place.
Yeah, especially given that again, Umbreon could have been a fairly safe switch in.
Exactly.
But bygones are bygones, and the match concluded in a 2-0 win for Skills.
Just a quick mention to Braviary with Retaliate, which was a really good move on the specific Pokemon, especially considering the high stats of Braviary in offense, in attack, and the stab of Retaliate. So just for the future opponent of Skillers, be wary of Retaliate Braviary.
Yeah, which is actually really interesting to think about, especially a lot of normal type physical Pokemon have been neutered by the removal of Return this generation, meaning that usually their biggest stab is something like Body Slam, if not something worse than that. But Retaliate is something like it's a little one-time nuke, one-time Z move kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, that brings
I
us.
think that's basically it for this match. It was
you want to introduce
somewhat of an unexpected upset by Skills, but very good match regardless.
Yeah, I feel both played all right. There's still some misplays like with the Wailords and the staying in for Shifu that could still be addressed, but both players did what they could, and it still ends up being somewhat close.
Yeah.
You wanna introduce?
Yeah,
the next
match so second match, which was White Loaf, the coach of the Loafville Lanturns, against Cabral, coach of the Aegislashers, I believe.
The Slinging Aegislashers.
Slinging Aegislashers, just the freaking mouthful. Even last time I just didn't get it right.
It is. I think it's supposed to be a mouthful, but yeah. So at team preview, we see a pretty standard team coming out of Cabral. It's a rain team. There isn't a lot he can really adjust week to week. Bellifer pretty much always has to come. Barraskewda is there to take advantage of the rain. Sidesman Toads is there to be an electric immunity because you need those. And then Aegislash is just a good Pokemon.
Yeah, and then when we actually watched Nick's team, we just realized that there is no water resist. And if you watch the whole draft of Nick, there is not a single water resist in the first place. So it's really unfortunate to actually face Cabral with a heavy rain team.
Yeah, it was a very uphill battle from the start, and sadly Nick does not end up coming out on top.
It's true.
Yeah, as we get into it here, immediately we have, just the unfortunate matchup for Nick with the Bronzong against the Aegislash.
And then actually brings the Milk Tank, even though I don't exactly know why you would bring the Milk Tank on this very specific occasion, because since the Milk Tank probably has the Toxic Body Press or even maybe Body Slam, there's basically nothing that he can actually do in the first place, so I don't exactly know why Nick went for the Milk Tank there.
Yeah, especially if this Aegislash was carrying Sacred Sword or any other fighting type coverage, it would have just blown it out of the water. I don't think it ends up having that.
No, it actually just carried Night Slash for some reason, which is weird because Night Slash, Dark types and Ghost types are very similar, and in the end, just basically the same weaknesses in a way. So same weaknesses, same resistances, and same times you get pretty much the same times you get which each other are super effective. So I don't actually know why Cabal went for Night Slash instead of Shadow Claw when Shadow Claw was a stab move and would actually have dealt more damage. I guess it's maybe a reason, or maybe not.
Yeah,
Might not know.
or maybe at least swap it out for the fighting type coverage and then leave Shadow Sneak be the stab move,
True.
which isn't ideal, but it's still better than like Night Slash is just not great, especially when it's not stab. And Shadow Claw actually has the same increased critical hit rate.
Yeah.
Is interesting. But yeah, as we sort of see things continue here, Nick is just sort of struggling to keep up like any kind of offensive pressure as Cabral keeps on bringing the rain, keeps on, just applying the pressure. Like
a thing that's really unfortunate about the melee tank once again is that I'm pretty sure it doesn't have any stab, and Body Slam would have been such a better move just to try to spread some paralysis on Cabral's team, especially since Cabral was actually running a very speedy team with a Rain, with a Swift Swim Seismitoad and the Swift Swim Barracuda. So I don't exactly know why he insists on bringing Body Press instead.
Yeah, I'm also kind of interesting switches from Nick after the Bisharp dies. He brings in Zygardes against Seismitoad. Well, I feel that if he just went into Dusclops and maybe like threatened the Will-O-Wisp, because it is a physical Seismitoad.
Yeah, and maybe even go for something like extreme speed to try to kill the Seismitoad, since it's more than likely actually faster thanks to Swift Swim.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but instead, Nick opts to go for Substitute, which he ends up being knocked too low to even use. After that, Zygarde just sort of falls for no real benefit.
yeah, just still kind of mentioning the White Herb overheat on Turtonator, which it's worth mentioning, even though White Herb might have been useful in a ways for potential Shell Smash.
Or for a potential Draco Meteor, if Turtonator gets that. Both of which I feel would have been better options, especially given the rain, especially given that, aside from Bronzong, it's not resisted.
Yeah, and it's probable that Bronzong actually has Heat Proof.
Yeah. Or actually the Bisharp too, but Bisharp still doesn't want to take a Draco Meteor.
Yeah, but we actually saw Bisharp have the Defiant from the Liquidation, which for the first time ever, the defense drop of Liquidation actually works up in favor of the other Pokemon.
Yeah, like it's never seen it come up, and then when it does come up, it comes up on the one Pokemon that has Defiant where you don't want it to. Which, that's just classic Pokemon for you. But yeah, like just to prove like how bulky this fucking Dusclops is, like it takes 28% from an overheat. Stab overheat from Turtonator.
Yeah. Just doesn't want to die.
It just hard refuses, and like also if like Nick had just played it like a little bit more offensively, like it maybe gone for like just a hit on the Pelipper rather than something else, then Pelipper would have maybe been dead at this point, but instead it's sort of just left limping but still able to come in, set up rain again. Even if it ends up being against Cabral's favor as he clicks overheat in the rain and still kills.
Just overheat from the high special attack Turtonator and the very low special defense, the Vikavolt, just even in the rain, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, super effective stab, base 110 power. There was no chance. And then the Dusclops being too weak to even lift Stealth Rocks comes in and dies to nothing.
Though we still have to commend Nick to actually bring Thunder against Rain, because I'm pretty sure everybody with an electric type Pokemon will actually bring Thunder against Cabral, because it's the right thing to do. But for especially for Vikavolt, who has a very high special attack, it's actually a very good call.
Yeah, especially given that I'm not sure if Cabral even has another switch in or immunity to it other than Seismitoad, which you have the coverage of Energy Ball for.
Yeah, Energy Ball, and still once again mentioning the Window Berry just doing God's work right now.
Yeah, Random Berry, which I'm pretty sure has been brought every week on Seismitoad and has been procced every week on Seismitoad.
Besides 1 week, but on that 1 week it was basically worthless because the size method was already at 10%, I believe, so that didn't really matter.
Yeah, but still, like it's just allowed to live the hit here, and even though it doesn't end up coming out again, I don't think it's still, it's differential that it saves.
Yeah.
Which might end up coming into play depending on how things turn out.
Yeah, especially considering the state of the team right now. Did we actually mention the hydration of Vaporeon? That's once again is actually doing the work?
Not yet, but yeah, Vaporeon brings hydration once again. Hydration, if you don't know what it does, if your Pokemon is status and it's in the rain, the status is removed. And Vaporeon is usually sort of infamous for running just Water Absorb to, be immune to opposing water moves. And again, Cabral is able to sort of look. This is one of the advantages of a draft league. You can look at your opponent's team, think, am I expecting my opponent to be using water moves? And especially against a rain team with 2 potential water absorb users, you're not really ever expecting your opponent to willingly click a water move.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. I mean, I guess maybe if Cabral were to bring the Rotom Heat, but even against that, there's so many switch-in for the water Pokemon that it's just not worth it.
Yeah, there's like a lot better things you could run, which frees Cabral's Vaporeon up to run Hydration instead, and it's been, I've seen it twice now. It's just done well twice. Like it's just healed up Toxic. Even Nick tries to like Toxic it again, even though it's
And
it's not gonna work.
Worth mentioning is once again that Vaporeon is pretty infamous for being a defensive Pokemon, especially in Baton Pass teams. But Vaporeon actually has a pretty high special attack, so it's still doing very good offensive work with Surf in the rain. So I'm pretty sure people keep forgetting that, and it's actually a godsend for Cabal because you can literally just spam Surf and everybody just switches in expecting, yeah, I can take that, and then you realize, wait, no, I can't.
Yep, it's special attack. It's Vaporeon's second highest stat at 110, which that's just a lot of special attack right there.
And I actually think that's it for this match. It's just.
I think the only other thing really to note is Nick did bring Trick Room on Dusclops, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's true.
Which does end up being good for him because most of his team is slower, especially while rain is up. It's just that, given that most of Nick's Pokemon are just too defensive, it just doesn't end up putting the pressure that it needs.
That's actually funny in a way because I believe he actually brought Stakataka in a way. Even though most of Cabal's team resists the Stab Garable, Stakataka still has very high offensive stats, so even with the Rock Stab, he might actually have put a dent into Cabal's team.
Yeah. We haven't seen Stakataka brought out a lot from Nick, regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that does do it for this match, though.
Yeah.
So I'll introduce our next match. Our next match is Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers, versus Remedy, coach of the Kansas City Krabbys. And I fully admit, I actually helped Spood run some drills, and it was a tough match, like sort of from team building onwards already.
Yeah, and it's actually unfortunate. If you actually see the team preview, you immediately see that it's true that Spood actually has 2 electric resists in Pikachu and Alolan Raichu, but in this matchup, it actually ends up not mattering at all just because of the sheer power of Xurkitree.
Yeah, Xurkitree's base fucking dumb special attack combined with the electric terrain, which we're gonna see as soon as we get into the match here, combined with Stab, and combined with the fact that Rising Voltage is a move that never should have been made, it immediately puts on a huge amount of pressure on Spood's team, and Spood quickly realizes he just doesn't have a switch in.
Yeah, and literally on the first turn, Spood has to stay in. Just you don't have any switch into Rising Voltage. either you stay with the Pincushion or you just switch something else, and this something else actually dies either way. So just try to go on with the right shoe and outspeed the potential Scarf the Tree, even though it ended up being a choice specs anyways. But
Yeah.
just what do you do against this thing? Though there was a slight misplay when actually sending the Talonflame and the Dual Wing beat, because you literally had the Unburden Drift Beam to actually take care of it and still be faster either way.
Yeah, it was just sort of unfortunate that he ended up being in a position where the calc for Pincurchin, there was a chance for a Scarf Circuitry to knock it out in one shot. It wasn't guaranteed, but and Specs always would have knocked it out. But the point really is like that one calc wasn't enough to give Spood the information that he needed to make the correct play there. Because had he known the Circuitry was Specs and not Scarfed, then he could have actually clicked something like Flare Blitz with the bird instead.
Yeah, that's true. Worth mentioning as well is the skill swap play, which was not a bad play in itself. It's just ended up working against Spood instead of for him, just for the sole reason that giving Unburden to the Throat Spray Toxicity just made it so that you actually, well, you basically killed yourself with the overdrive in the end.
Yeah, it's, you know, like he couldn't have known beforehand that Circuitry would be running an item that gets consumed. It has repeatedly done so there was precedent for it, but it has been choiced in the past, so no, there's never a guarantee. But it does end up working out very unfortunately. There is also the very weird play from Remedy where the Toxicity is in against the Melmetal, and for some reason they click Boom Burst.
Yeah, I just don't really get it, but
like you click the non-stab, non-ridiculously powerful move of Rising Voltage in order to click Boom Burst instead.
I mean, there was overdrive as well, but
yeah, overdrive in electric terrain. Definitely, like stab the electric terrain boost and the fact that it gets doubled in electric terrain, that definitely would have knocked out the Melmetal, but you know, Boom Burst happened instead, and it didn't. There's also the very unfortunate roll of the double Iron Bash on the Zapdos, where Zapdos ends up living on 1 HP.
Yeah, and right after that there was a crit on the Slurpuff that just ends up mattering so much, and it's just really unfortunate for Spood.
Yeah, it definitely, you know, like given the position, he probably still wouldn't have won, but it definitely did, like, cost some differential.
Yeah, just even though there were some misplays from Spood, at the end he actually got really effed up by the RNG, and just the game was literally telling him, no, you won't win this match. There has been no chance that I will let you win this match.
Yeah, like the start's just unfortunate, matchup wise and calc wise, and then the end ends up just unfortunate RNG wise. You know, basically just the whole game slapping Spood down, telling him no. And sometimes Pokemon just does that. Sometimes it just does not want to work with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, 17 turn match. There isn't much more to say about this one.
Yeah, we could just quickly mention the fact that Melmetal resisted the earthquake from the Appleton behind the sub. Just quick mention for the fact that Appleton actually has no freaking good offensive attacks, physical attack. And Melmetal is also ridiculous in physical defense. So
yeah, the combination of like over, I think, 130 health and 130 defense. That thing is like non-stab super effective hits are still not enough to, if they're physical at least, not gonna do it. But special hits to put a giant dent in it.
Yeah.
And yes, if you would be so kind to introduce the last match that we have this week.
Yes, the last match.
As I slink off to the background.
I wonder who that is. So, in here we actually have Aurora, coach of the Hoensbroek Hunter, versus Vincent Spoopman, coach of the who was it again? Heerlen Hawluchas. There
Yeah.
you go.
There you go. Too many H's.
Yeah. Why would you want so many H's in your team name? Come on. And immediately you actually see that there's somewhat of what can I say in the team building? Team preview actually shows that there is still the crocodile that can do a decent work against Aurora's team. The intimidate actually hurts the few physical Pokemons and can still hurt back every other non-physical Pokemon, especially Slowbro. Galarian Moltres is always a threat. Hawlucha is always a threat. But we actually end up seeing that it's not that much of a threat in this specific case. So if we actually start the match, on this first turn we actually see that it's very unfortunate for Spoopman because he was running a quite a gimmicky set of Scale Shot Crocodile to try to outspeed the Victini, and was actually running a weakness policy on it, expecting the U-turn probably from a Choice Scarf. And if Aurora actually played the U-turn, would have probably given Crocodile enough power to potentially kill everything else behind. There's been some questionable switches in from Spoopman, especially from the Arachnid into the Zarude. That was very... I really don't exactly get why. Probably expecting to put on a bug type move into the Zarude, which is the double weak to it. Just ends up not doing anything against it anyways.
Yeah.
But the big surprise was especially the nasty friend bat, the special Crobat that just ends up putting such a big dent into Vincent's team, and he just can't recover from it afterwards.
Yeah, also sort of surprised to see because afterwards it turned out that the Moltres is scarfed, and right after the Bulu also comes out and reveals that also it is scarfed as it outspeeds the Victini.
Yeah, and it's actually weird. I mean, coming from the scarf, you actually see that your Zarude was also scarfed because it actually outsped the Moltres, and I don't exactly understand why Spoopman decided to throw in the Bulu, especially since he should have known that Zarude was stuck into Iron Tail and just gave you such a big advantage against it. Should just have sent the Crocodile, try to lower the attack of the Zarude, forcing a switch in and try to gain back the momentum. Just ended up not doing it anyways.
Yeah, he ends up sort of throwing away most of Bulu's health right off the bat. And, you know, afterwards, because it does come in like on my own Scarf Pokemon, that I don't... Well, actually, no, that doesn't do a lot of Scarf, but Victini ends up being strong enough anyway.
Yeah.
To just take the hit.
Just some other plays worth mentioning, the fact that Hawlucha actually had no Flying Stab. Probably no Flying Stab, maybe just at the very least it was running Iron Head against the Crobat, which makes me believe it didn't have neither Acrobatics nor Brave Bird. Maybe he was trying to go for a flinch, which is weird, especially since, well, flinch rely on RNG like this is not exactly the best move to actually do.
Yeah, it's also interesting because Crobat does have the ability Inner Focus, which makes it immune to flinches. I didn't run it. I ran how do you call it? Infiltrator.
Yeah.
Like just to deal with potential substitutes.
And screens as well.
I forget that it always works for screens.
Yeah.
Need to keep that in mind for you.
Yeah, remember that against me. Yeah, just to come back to the Arachnid, there was just a weird play once again with it. Just why did you exactly did you protect with it, especially since you didn't have any leftovers? When you actually saw that it basically Twitch KO, you actually had to switch it back to the Vulu immediately. Do not just throw the life of the Arachonid for no reason.
Yeah, it's also a question of like it came in like he hard switched into it, which means that immediately it went for or it got hit by a grass step move because Zarude is most likely to click a grass step move against.
Yeah, and Arachonid isn't exactly known for being a very physically defensive Pokemon.
And also because of that, like the Arachonid being so slow, he like doesn't realize at that point yet that the Zarude is scarfed.
Yeah, which was unfortunate. Last thing I want to mention is your last move that you actually did. From what you mentioned, you actually didn't think that extreme speed would have killed because you actually didn't take into account the defense drop from scale shot. But in the end, no matter what what move Crocodile actually used, it would have killed the Zygarde anyway. So 1000 hours was the safest move to use no matter what.
Yeah, I actually remember running the calc, and at the time, I actually was going to click E-Speed at first, and then when I looked back at the screen, I realized, like, wait a second, it healed back because of the grassy terrain, like just out of range, out of E-Speed, and then didn't take into the calculation the defense drop, like you said.
Yeah.
But it ends up living, lucky for me, and just, 1000 arrows is stronger than E-Speed, so it does knock it out.
Yeah. And I mean, even if it, for some reason, the Crocodile managed to kill, it's not like you actually had nothing against it. I mean, I guess Slowbro was weak to any potential knockoff, but I'm pretty sure it would have still lived, especially since, well, once again, Crocodile didn't really have an investment in that, any boost in attack, and it wouldn't have had any, especially since we actually saw it was Intimidated, not Moxie.
Mm-hmm. Also, interestingly, my Slowbro was actually partially made to live like one Moxie boosted Crocodile and then kill it back with counter.
Oh, well. A shame we actually didn't see that, just for the for the meme, but well.
Yeah.
Well, should have done that. Should have done that. This match sucks now. I really wanted to see that.
Yeah, well, it didn't end up being necessary, but that does round up the matches for the second division for this week.
Yeah.
Which that brings us to what is now interesting, actually, which is the standings as they currently are, the records, basically.
Yeah, what we can see is that basically right now you're almost guaranteed to be qualified because you have 4 wins and no losses. So your differential is pretty high with a plus 19. So I don't think unless you actually throw all your future matches, I don't think you will actually lose. And spoiler alert, she doesn't. So that's not happening.
Yeah, even interestingly, like even if I lose the next 3 weeks 6-0, I would still have +1 differential.
Yeah. For the rest, it's pretty much guaranteed that Nick has basically no chance to actually make it to the playoff because the 0-4 is gonna be rough if he actually wants to run it back.
Yeah, like given that everybody has 7 opponents for 7 weeks, so like 4 is sort of the magic number because it's more than half. So like having 4 wins pseudo guarantees playoffs, having 4 losses pseudo guarantees you're not going to make it. And then again, that's why like a lot of these matches this week were interesting because Spood had the potential for a 4th win, but ended up losing, and the Krabbys ended up getting a 2nd win and being 2-2. So like they 2 more wins and they can sort of solidify themselves, and they still have that room for like 1 game of error.
Yeah. Speaking of 2-2, we actually have 4 teams with 2-2. So all of those teams still have a chance to actually make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, like the same thing actually like applies to pretty much everybody. Like the Hawluchas wanted to go for their 3rd win this week, didn't end up getting it. Skittles versus the Honchkrows, the Ninetales versus the Honchkrows, also ended up getting both of them to 2-2. And funnily enough, actually, Skittles and the Krabbys are tied exactly.
Yeah.
2-2 and -2 differential.
Another team is actually the Aegislashers with Carol, which he actually can still run back because the differential is only -4. He can still get back into the positive numbers, and if he wins every single one of his future matches, he still has a chance.
Yeah, there's still a chance for for most people to still make it. I think with the right amount of shenanigans, I think Nick can still make it, but it requires very specific outcomes. That's
Yeah, and
like
it's
like
very unlikely that it might actually happen. So
yeah, like the likeliness isn't there, but the possibility exists. So can't discount anybody yet, and I need to be careful too because with enough fucking up, I can still not make it.
yeah, but well, we are a bit in the future right now, so we know that you actually don't make that mistake. So
Don't spoil it, right? Anyway, I think that does it for the week. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for joining us this week again. We hope to you keep following, keep up with the league, because we are going to do the recaps of the standings every week now, because it's really only this point where it really becomes interesting, because week 1 is just like, oh, one person won and the other person didn't win. You already knew that.
yeah, just even though we can analyze the matches and point out the potential, not the potential mistakes, the actual mistakes of the players. When there were literally 2 straight up matches in this week. Even though we cannot pseudo-analyze them, there were not much to actually say about those. So yeah, the one player won, one player lost, and that's it. Just was it.
Sometimes that's the way it goes. Sometimes it isn't entirely in the hands of the player either.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway, that does it for this week. See y'all in the next one.
See y'all. Bye.